Well, Anthony Albanese has spoken with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer about Australia joining the so-called Coalition of the Willing to supply peacekeeping troops on the Ukrainian border.
Yeah, Anthony Albanese said last week that he was, quote unquote, open to the possibility of sending troops. Well, that's starting to look a little firmer with confirmation that our government will send a representative to a Chiefs of Defence meeting in Paris that'll be held on Tuesday.
You know, every time you think Anthony Albanese can't be that foolish, he goes and says something like this and you think, for goodness sake, what are you doing here? Anthony Albanese can't even get a hold of serious and big issues in his own country, like we just said, the cost of living crisis, immigration, national security, and yet he wants to provide security for Ukraine. Is that a joke? Are you kidding me? But also, he didn't even know about the Chinese warships, for goodness sake. He didn't even know if China gave advanced warning or not, that there was that whole situation there. We have to think of our backyard. Now, that's not to say you do feel sympathy for Ukraine, because it is an unfathomable situation that they are facing there. But this is what Donald Trump is doing. He's putting the US first. He's going US first, everyone else second, as you know, he should. And we've got to start doing that as well, James, because this is an unwinnable war. That is what the experts have said. Ukraine can not win this. So I think it's extremely naive for the PM to get on the phone to Keir Starmer, who, by the way, has said we'll put boots on the ground and planes in the air. Are we going to get called up to do the exact same thing as our ally in the UK? I mean, come on, seriously.
The Australian Defence Force has got a very proud history when it comes to peacekeeping operations, and so Australia's been very good in that regard around the world over a number of decades. What Anthony Albanese needs to explain to the Australian public is why Australian troops need to go to Europe when there are plenty of European countries that have not been pulling their weight in their own defence, and that is the point Donald Trump has been trying to make, and it seems like maybe they're getting the message. They're starting to increase defence spending. But you're quite right. When we've got security challenges here, why send peacekeepers to Europe to do what European soldiers should be doing? The other thing that's interesting is Anthony Albanese buddying up to Keir Starmer, I guess a fellow socialist leader, while not being able to get a call through to Donald Trump. And we'll talk about tariffs in just a moment, where he really does need to speak to the US president. But he's making peacekeeping plans with Starmer when Trump is setting the agenda for what's going to happen in Ukraine. You would have thought our PM would be on the phone to Trump to find out how is this going to play out, how can Australia best play a role, rather than talking to Keir Starmer, who's making plans, but everyone knows Trump is setting the agenda for this. Well, talk to our main ally first.
Well, Keir Starmer welcomed Volodymyr Zelensky to Downing Street in the last week and says that the whole of the UK are with you. And again, you do feel sympathy for Ukraine. I'm not denying that fact. What Russia is doing here is absolutely abhorrent. We will say that. But this is not our war, James.
The other thing with Keir Starmer is this is great for Keir Starmer because, remember, his popularity at an all-time low just months after winning the Prime Ministership in the UK. There were millions of people petitioning for him to, call another election. He's got a crisis that he's now forefront in Europe. He's meeting with Macron and others, and suddenly he's found his issue. He's a lot like Anthony Albanese, both trying to search around for something to give them some relevance and credibility.